But I do think that seeing this side of my room, my actual desk, is nicer.
Oh, okay. I like the
Yeah.
other way because it had lights in the
Yeah.
background and all that kind of stuff. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
This
But
this way is I mean, this way is like plain.
gotcha. All right. Well, you guys, I said I wasn't going to talk to an empty room, but technically, you guys are not an empty room, but you guys are the regulars. So, questions about funnels. I'm fielding questions about funnels. I would specifically want to talk about capture and categorize, or otherwise known as segmentation. So, questions about that, and open up the floor to talk, ask questions about segmentation and capturing information. Like, let me seed it a little bit. I'll seed it by saying this: you don't capture more information than you intend to use. So if you don't plan on using text messaging or phone calls, don't ask for a phone number. If you don't plan on using an address to send somebody something, don't ask for a physical address. Eventually, over time, you in the course of your funnel, throughout your funnel, you'll ask for more information relative to how engaged the person is. So, with that being said, that's going to be the baseline. Where I'm going to start right there. We're going to go to some other places, but we're going to start right there. Any questions around that, or any comments, or anything like that, or if you're working in a funnel right now, you have a funnel right now, and you're kind of wondering what should I be capturing up front. Now's the time to ask that question as we see if anybody else joins.
Got it. So you're referring to people being kind of guarded with their information, yes?
No, yes and no, yes and no. Yes, because
I
they may need
guess,
that, but then also I'm understanding that marketers are hungry for information. So because you kind of there's like a little bit of a dance there.
hmm
Because I feel like if you ask people for the information, generally they're going to give you the information if they want it, but be responsible with the information when you get it is more what I'm where that's coming from. So
right. So I
yeah,
think, like, for example, having a digital product that gets sent to your email inbox,
right,
but we got to get your phone number for a text confirmation. But then if there's an upsell for them to get a physical copy of that product, then at that point in time, getting their address, like, there's a level of intention,
right,
right? Where the customer feels now comfortable. Oh, why do you need to know? The question doesn't come up of why do you need to know that piece of information?
right.
And I think that's what I meant by guarded. Was that accurate?
Yeah, yeah, they may ask that question. Yeah, and I think that some people do. And there's a certain demographic of people that will always ask that question. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm more or less seeing it from the person that's the marketer and what information that you need to grab. If you're a business owner and you have a lead magnet, for instance, and like you said, if you're not going to send it in the mail, I love how you said that. Like if they wanted a physical copy, then you're going to need their address so you can send them a physical copy. But yeah, from the standpoint of somebody that has a business and they're looking to, you know, gather contact information, yeah, that it's like what do
Another
you
good example of it would be like birthday funnel, right? The birthday
birthday funnel?
funnel, unless
I
you're
call that
planning to
the
actually send them something, there's no damn point to collect their birthday. It's nice. It shows that you care about the customer,
right,
right? But that could even be a lead magnet that people sometimes they collect that. Like, oh, I see like birth date, and then I don't get an email on my birthday about what I'm getting. And I'm like, why did you collect that?
right,
It's
Right?
actually a negative customer experience.
Yeah. So I think
Um,
that if someone is going to give you that information, that it should be something that we utilize to give value.
right. Yeah. It definitely, and because you
Yeah.
always want to make sure that you're only going to grab. It's called, I guess, they call it contact ethics. I don't know what you would call it, but you make sure
Mhm. Yeah.
whatever you grab, you use. Otherwise, don't ask
Yeah.
for it at all.
Yeah. That's the ethics approach is the ethics component of it is where I thought you were talking initially, Xavier, about yes, legally I cannot gather information and store it just for because I want to. But even more important than the legal limitations, the legal compliance is from an ethical perspective. Why would I engage with somebody, gather their information, do analytics on them if I'm not actually going to do something for them, if I'm not going to act on? We talk from a marketing perspective of giving value as we showing, providing information, giving and so we try to we try to say that we're building value by giving people information. Um, whether they see it as that or not is secondary to the point of, if you're not even going to do that, you had better not even have the information. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, yeah, it's better. Yeah, I now the legal part of it. Oh yeah, I didn't go into that part. I don't really know all the legal parts of it, but I know that there are some legal implications behind keeping and storing data. That's why we had that whole big push in 2023 for A2P compliance. If you're using any kind of application to peer or application to person text messaging, you have this thing called an A2P compliance, where you basically have to give certain verbiage or in your terms and conditions to let people know how you plan on using their information. And I was going to get to that a little later on down the road in the conversation, as far as what's compliant and what's not compliant, and where did it all come from. What governing bodies in the government maintain that and why it's important. But for now, I just wanted to just focus on the type of information the type of information or the type of information that we're going to collect. So, like phone numbers, email addresses. I think that some of the smarter, in bigger brands, have a tendency to collect as much information, including gender or gender preference about a person, so that the messaging can be accurate when they move them on to the presentation piece. So I guess we can spend a little time talking about that part too. Why collect the information? Well, generally, the reason why you want to collect information is because marketing is at its best when it's relevant and personable. So, in other words, are you being addressed as you, the person, when you go and look at someone's website, or are you being addressed as a hey you? Most people don't like being addressed as hey you. They want to be addressed as their name. But what if you can address them as their gender, or what if you can address them as their occupation, or what if you insert contextual information in your landing page that changes the narrative for everybody that comes to your site based on the contextual clues that you got from them when you initially had them fill out a form to take advantage of your lead magnet. And before we talked about lead magnets, we talked about things that attract. That's system one. Now we're on the system two. System one being traffic and attraction, and system two being capture and categorize, or capturing and segment.
That
So
is a good point, though. As in, like, I can imagine what could happen if you're like, hey, what industry are you in? For example, for me, right? I have some doctors that I work with. I have some tradespeople that I work with. I have some even videographers and marketers that I work with, right? So I could then be like, what industry are you in? And then on the top of my funnel, of the funnel that they get sent, because of their answer, they could say, we help doctors create content for blah, blah, blah. We help tradespeople create
Right.
content for blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And all that really happened was we just sent them one of, let's say there's 3 answers, right? Doctors, trades, and marketers. We just sent them one of 3 separate funnels where the verbiage, the VSL has been recorded for that industry, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah. And that's the reason and the purpose behind collecting the type of information that you collect. Is so that you can give a message, because directly after system 2 is system 3, right? System 3 is presentation and position, how you present your offer and how you position your company, right? Give them a bit of your culture, give them a little bit about what your business is all about, what you do, how you do it. So that's why you're collecting the information up front. So if you, in real time, if I had to put it together, so you have traffic and attraction, you throw your offer out in the middle of the traffic, out in the middle of the socials, out in the middle of the World Wide Web. We are talking about digital marketing by and large, but in certain cases, you may be in a face-to-face environment, like going to a networking group, like how we all met. And when you're there, you're going to be collecting in-person contact information. I want to go through a build it or buy it. So that's what I call build it or buy it, where I basically break down how to build out a in-person networking top of funnel activity or automation that puts people into these categories. It gives them the opportunity to answer according to their niche. But the point is, you collect the information, you go on from 1 to now number 2, capture and categorize. The back end of all this is after you collect all that information and you do give them a presentation, what's happening in the background is that their source of where they came from is being tracked, and then they're being tagged, so that you know exactly so that you know later on where they came from as you get ready to go into your nurture sequences, which is all the way in system 6. You go into your nurture sequences, and you can basically give people nurturing relative to where they came from and their tag. Again, the name of the game is personalization all the way through the funnel, all the way to the point of collecting their credit card or getting them to swipe their credit card. It's all about making them feel like they've been seen, like they've been heard, and that you are an expert when it comes to them and the problem that they're facing. The other thing I really want to talk about is what the mechanism behind getting somebody to the right offer. What does that look like? So, and this is generally why people say niche down, because you narrow your message to where you're just talking to one person. But let's just say I deal with coaches, consultants, and public speakers. So if you're a coach, consultant, and public speakers, they all have after you get past that first layer of identity, then what I do for them on the back side of that is pretty much all the same. But I still want to be able to communicate with them in a way that's going to make them feel like, oh, he's talking to me as a coach. Oh, he's talking to me as a consultant, or talking to me about becoming a better consultant in my business. Oh, he's talking about how do I become a better speaker? How do I be a better presenter, right? And so that I can present my offers live in person. Truth be told, the way I categorize it, everybody that goes to our networking group, that's Ignite You, anybody that sits at the table in my group, in my viewpoint, is a speaker, because you're speaking to present an offer so that you can get people to take advantage of what it is that are the problems that you solve. So the mechanism behind that is with the tagging and with the source attribution. usually happens, you have some sort of form that you're putting this information into. And not, these are not just like ordinary forms. I would probably say that Google Forms is probably an ordinary form. Writing out a form, filling out a form like a contact sheet, like name, phone number, email address, like actually with a pen and paper or pencil and paper, however you want to do that, is an ordinary form. But I'm talking about smart forms that are evaluating the input that's being put into them, therefore changing the outcome of that particular part of the journey in the funnel, that will then put them in different places throughout wherever you have them wanting to, or wherever you have wherever you have it pre-decided where they should go relative to the input they're putting in there. And that's where it starts to get really, really cool. So in the Traffic Link app and JotForm, they have smart features. Another one that I really found to be really dope, it acts as a survey, and the survey is a value added in and of itself, is Score app. Because based on the information that's put in, the next question could change. Like, so if you say that I'm a coach, then you're going to get jumped into the coach like funnel so that you can start getting that information. And that's the mechanism that changes what the outcome or the presentation that the person is going to get. That's the behind the scenes thing. That's the magic. That's the secret sauce, is that form. And how intelligent is that form? Does it have logic built into it? That's a crucial part of it, so that you can pivot what's being said based on input, personalization.
So there was definitely something I've been thinking about, especially with like networking, right?
Yeah.
How could you implement a form into your elevator pitch? And this is where I'm coming up with this, is because when I look at a YouTube video and how many view, or Instagram, whatever, social video, and you look at when the call to action happens, everybody's call to action is at the end of their 6-minute presentation at Ignite You, right?
Right.
What happens when you push that call to action forward? Right?
You know,
So
that's
this is where
funny you
this is
said
coming
that,
into
because
play.
I started that way. I started by asking people to give me information so that I can determine what output's going to be. And then I'll try to spend the
Right.
rest of the time just answering questions. But I
So
love that. So that's where surveys come into play as a lead magnet.
yeah,
So then that's where you
I
change
was
your
thinking about playing like Kahoot.
Kahoot. What's that?
Kahoot was I mean, this is my generation knows about Kahoot, but Kahoot was a live quiz. It has nothing to do with business, but I think it could be fun. Where it was a live quiz software that teachers would use in classrooms, where people could see what the how many people knew the right answer to things, right? You'd see like 20% of the class got it right live, right? And everyone would be able to put in their answers. I'm
Oh,
wondering what would happen if we were to do that in a 6-minute presentation and say, hey, I just want to see how many people actually know what they're doing with their content. And then we're going to play a game where I can collect their information, download that CSV, pop it into my software because I can't really do it in my software. But let's say, boom, pull it out and then be able to retarget and know what their answers were and have that data in a fun way, in a gamification type of way, where I get everybody's information in the room because I wasn't selling them. I didn't tell them, you will get this to get this. No, we're all going to play a game today for 6 minutes,
come
right?
on.
What would happen? How
That's
would
strong.
I be able to get 100 people's information just
You,
because I
you
made it
said I
fun
want to play a game.
versus
That's
yeah.
smart, bro. No, I'm not gonna
I
hold
didn't
you. That is smart. That is the lane. Yes. So that be
Right.
so that's great because that also plays as a lead magnet. So I'm
Because
gonna
I
kind of
saw
have to,
this. I saw Justin do his 6 minutes.
yeah,
And after his 6 minutes, he came over to me and we talked a little. I was like, that was amazing. And then I like we had a deeper conversation about his 6 minutes. And then he said something about how he said, I hope the rest of the room felt the same. And that's his heart. That's his heart condition. That's what he wants for people.
right,
But at the same time, we don't know. We have no clue how people felt,
right.
right?
I like that.
And
Man, you got
I
me
would
on.
like to be able to incorporate more of an interactive way to do a presentation. And I think that might be able to do it. You know, like setting up some sort of way to show that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
another one I in that same zone is another one software out there. I'm getting kind of excited now because I realize that the real sauce, the real juice is system 2. Right? The kind of how you collect information and the way you collect information says a lot for your business down the line. Because it can demonstrate carelessness, it can demonstrate carefulness, it can demonstrate expertise, it can demonstrate trust, likability, based on how responsible or how in tune you go about collecting information. And the fact that you turn it on its head and make it a game, it reminds me of this other piece of software called Mentimeter, or is it Mentimeter, or no, it's Menti. I think it's called Menti presentation. I'm looking it up right now. It is Mentimeter. Yeah. Mentimeter is an interactive software that allows you to present a question and watch people respond live in real time.
That's
So
essentially what that would look like. And you could basically show that statistics are accurate by doing this. By taking a large enough pool of people, for example, Ignite use 100 people a week or a session
Yeah,
approximately.
in a week, it's 80 to 70 to 80 in a session.
in a session,
Yeah.
and we have like 3 of them a week.
If you Yep. So if you take that demographic of business owners and do this live, you can show how accurate a statistic that you've already prepared is. How many business owners know the answer to this question? How many, whatever, blah, blah, blah. How many business owners are struggling with this problem? Right? And
Right.
it could even strengthen the conviction that a person needs to fix said problem. Because a lot of times people don't like to raise their hand and say, I'm having this problem. There's the ego, there's a pride there. But when they find out that 80% of the room is also facing the same problem,
It opens them up.
wouldn't that help?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep. And so the gamifying it and gamification still works like that's the way of the future. I feel gamification, groupthink gamification is the way of the future. And then you put that
And at the end, you can say, hey, this part is completely anonymous. We're going to turn off the screen.
right,
If you need help with automation, with content, whatever the case may be, answer the last question and I'll come talk to you.
right,
And we turn off the screen. No one sees the last statistic.
right.
And then boom, they're able to do it with enough
Anonymity.
anonymity. Yeah, whatever.
Anonymity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anonymity. I
That
couldn't even
word.
say that. To do that, or you could even show that and be like, look, 80% of the room needs help with this. And
This
that
is
would
really
even be
interesting. This is really interesting because I think the technology would help avoid an issue I had at a table about a month ago, where I tried to do the approach of are you, is your business having this kind of issues? Is your business having that kind of issues? Is your business having this kind of issue? And the one person at the table who has not only has a storefront brick and mortar, but has had a storefront brick and mortar for a long time, is very well established, and we're very well established in Ignite U, dominated the table in the responses. So all the responses came back. No, we don't need your help. No, we don't need your help. No, we don't need your help. The other people at the table went silent. They weren't going to admit that they didn't agree with this person.
So that's what I've been running into. I've been doing my 6 minutes always with a question. I have never started my 6 minute, or so my 3 minute with me just talking and just being like machine gun information. I've always started with a question. I'll ask them a question about what they're struggling with, their content or whatever's. I'll get 3 answers. Then I got to cut it off and then just keep going, right? Or else I won't be able to talk either. I'm finding that to be a damn problem. I want to get all of their information. So if I could say, hey, could you pause on that timer real quick? Everybody scan this QR code, put in your information. When you're at step 1, we're going to start this quiz. Boom, boom, boom. I can get 3 questions out by a multiple choice and just say, click, click. You have like 10 seconds, click, click. And on top of that, if they only have 10, 30 seconds to make an answer, they're actually going to have a more genuine answer because they're not trying to think about what they want the rest of the room to hear. They're thinking about, okay, what is my instinctual answer versus how does this look to everybody else? There's less variables in their minds.
Right. So and now you're kind of tiptoeing over into system 3 with the presentation, but they're all kind of smooth. They all kind of work smoothly together. But specifically in the contact or the contacts or not contact, but the specifically in the area of capture and categorize, you see why it's important to really take that. And that's why I'm really having an epiphany right now. And I never really put it this way, but I feel like the top two things in the whole 6 systems is one is going to be contact or capturing the contact and how you categorize them, and then the follow-up. Because and those 2 things are going to dictate how you present and the effectiveness of your presentation. And then what your close rate is going to be, which is system 4. And then it's going to determine, what you deliver and how smoothly you can deliver things, right? Because you don't want to have to, if you are a service provider and you're part of your fulfilling your obligation and the agreement is to have certain information. By the time you get ready to start to work on that thing, you want to make sure you have all the information you need to, so that you're not doubling back to get that information later, because it makes you look a little bit unprofessional, right? Unless it's one of those long drawn out processes like mortgage or finance or anything finance, just to say, or anything legal, where there's going to be, to deliver what you need, there's going to be a discovery period. Then of course you're going to have to get more information probably in system 5, or probably at system 4, probably where you want to get it. As you're closing it out, you're gathering all the information that you need in order to actually close it efficiently, which is a part of your system in system 4. System 4 is a sneaky one. We'll get to that in a couple of weeks. We're eventually going to get through all the systems. We started at system 1 and we went kind of heavy on content and traffic and attraction and content creation and all that. Now that we're talking about, now that we got they got their attention, what information that we gather from them, and different methods or mechanisms, or I want to use the word modality. I'm kind of stuck on that word lately, but different ways you can collect that contact information is going to be pivotal. So I
think this is really good because essentially, so I'm the only person here that's not in the automation business right now.
Right.
Yes. Okay. So this is really good because I'm able to talk your guys' language because I understand my in-person system well enough where it can translate to what you guys are doing.
Right.
I think it's really essential for your customers to understand their manual system well enough to articulate it to you guys so you guys can hone it into an automated version.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're jumping around all over the place because I understand what my onboarding system is manually in person well enough that it's so easy for us to jump back and forth
Right.
between the two. And I think that a lot of people, like people are not financially literate, they're not even system literate enough to take on a service like this. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That kind of just like
Yeah.
that kind of just helped me with the whole purpose of having office hours. That's like really affirming in a deep cut kind of way.
Because we're talking and it's been boom, 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 boom. But I noticed that sometimes when other people are on these office hours, there's like this question mark look on their face.
Like they're glazed over, right? Like
Yeah,
the eyes are glazed. Yeah.
because they don't even understand what they're doing in their business.
Right.
Not trying to call anybody
And
out, of course.
no, and but that's but I think so that's where the jargon issue of we have this set of terms that we're using to describe how we do marketing on their behalf, and that's going over their head. But they're already starting from a place of they're inside the frying pan, they're inside the treadmill, they're just scrambling to run their business. And they're still in the make it up as you go along mode. They don't even have a systems and a process. And so when we say we're going to automate your system, they're going like, what? Delete army word system.
Yeah.
They don't even their brain doesn't even think in terms of systems. They're a sublimator of graphics on mugs. They don't realize that they do have a system and a process. They don't have it's all just manual, and there's minor variations every time because it's all manual.
Keith, I'm going to go a little personal here regarding what you texted me about the other day. Is that okay?
I
Can I? I
I'm
don't know
not
enough
sure.
information, so it's going to be kind of surface level. But
Okay.
would you say that
Xavier might have to filter out, might have to clip out part of this recording.
I
It's
ain't
okay.
filtering nothing. It's going straight to the cloud. No, just joking.
all good? Do you feel like you burned out a little bit a couple days ago?
Yeah, I was kind of close to overwhelm
Okay.
earlier this week.
Might that be the better question to ask these business owners over talking about automation?
Okay. Are
You,
you overwhelmed? Are you anxious about how you're going to keep up with all of the things you have to keep up with? Is that what you're saying?
right. So if we look up a general statistic such as how many hours do entrepreneurs work? Okay. So how many hours do entrepreneurs work per week? According to Gallup, 62% of business owners work over 50 hours a week. So we could say this. This number is higher than the standard 40-hour work week. Many people build their startups to be independent and work fewer hours, but it turns out differently. Knowing the statistic, knowing you're not alone, how many of you feel like you're burning out working over 50 hours a week? Right? So for most people, over 50 hours a week means 60 or more. So knowing this, what if I could take 20 hours off your week every week? So I could take off a total of 80 hours of work a week off your schedule. What would that do for your life? What is that value to you? And then you say, okay, what is your hourly? Xavier and I were talking about this at a Subway, but essentially a average person's hourly is around $60 an hour, right? So 60 times 80 is what? 4,800, I think. Xavier, correct me if I'm wrong, or I'll just do his calculator.
Yeah, you
real
got the
quick.
calculator. You
60
always
times
count on me
80.
for figures, and I always tell you, you
Yep.
got a calculator.
4,800. Well, I don't know if you could see that in my camera, but 4,800, right? So now if I automate your system and save you 80 hours a month, that's worth 4,800 to you. And more
And I'm
because you
not,
get stressed about it.
and I'm not charging you 10% of that. I'm not charging you $480 a month, or maybe I am. Maybe I am.
Well, I'm
Actually, I
almost
think
certain
about it.
that both of you guys can automate more than 80 hours a week
Yeah.
because business owners aren't even doing everything they need to do and they're still overworked.
Right.
Yeah. All right. I'm
That's
gonna go. I had a thought as you were saying that, and I lost it. So maybe I'll send it as a note to the two of you later. But
Okay.
thank you both.
All right. Take care, Keith.
all right. Have a good day.
Rats, because you said something really interesting, and I gotta rethink it
Pull you back
because
in.
I was distracted by the driveway. See you.
All right. So let's go back to.
I told you it was going to be fire. No matter who shows up, we're going to make this work. I told you
funny.
that.
Yeah. The I really want to just focus though. I want to focus on the system too. Like I see where you're going with that. That's so system 2, the capture and category. We haven't even talked about the importance of segmentation, and why that's such a thing that's lacking in a lot of people's businesses. Creating smart lists and things like that, being able to manage those smart lists, being able to put people in and out of the smart list relative to their preference. Because another part of system 2, what's it be system 2? Probably like system 2 or either system 2 or system 6 is preference management and how people choose to be contacted. You can make that an upfront thing as well. So if for instance, they might be comfortable with you sending them information by text, but maybe not by email, vice versa. Or they might be interested in you calling them versus you emailing them. Yeah. So, and maybe setting that as like and you're welcome after you welcome them to your company after they submitted their contact information. The first thing is say, hey, we understand that not everybody likes to communicate the same way. So why don't we give you options to you so that you can choose how you want to be engaged, right? That's part of system 2, and I like saying it like systems as opposed to saying steps. Steps means it's one thing, and systems means it's a whole conglomerate of things that kind of work well together and interfit with one another. So preference management, yeah, definitely would be in system 2, and then revisit it again in system 6 when you're following up. Because really, system 6 kind of happens throughout the whole process. It's the follow up. So for every action, there's going to be a follow up action. So, but you can still put that preference management as a part of that collection of information. Some of the, I think, and I mentioned earlier that some of the more keen businesses will ask you for gender, will ask you for your name, will ask you for, relevant information so they know how to address you going forward. And I personally, as of late, have been seeing like the importance of asking gender or gender preference because maybe I might have an audience that is keen on how they like to be addressed, and then addressing it that way. So there's also some compliance issues, right? There's a GDPR. I always want to call it GDRP, but I think it's GDPR. Let me make sure. Yeah, GDPR compliance. GDPR
You know,
basically got real heavy a couple of years ago, and Apple started this whole like I feel like they were the forefront leaders in making sure people were GDPR compliant. That's the reason why we have to have A2P compliance now for contacting people by text messaging. So making sure that you're compliant and you're collecting your data is also very important, because you don't want to collect data that you didn't give somebody the opportunity to opt out of, or opt out of being contacted, and then you just kind of continually override that. So there's a compliance piece that goes along with that as well. Let's see.
how would you say is the best way to make sure that someone doesn't want to opt out of your text message or emails?
Provide them value. Personalization
Okay.
and provide them value is going to be the best way to make sure that people are not opting out of your list. If they feel like if they can feel like you're constantly promoting something, they're going to opt out. If they feel like you're constantly giving them something, they're going to stay there, because you're helping them advance their lives. What do you think people are in business for? Like, when you look at that, why do you think people go into business? Like, put it another way, why do you think successful businesses last?
I think they definitely plan for the long game over immediate sales today. I mean, that's the basic reason why I chose my business model.
Well, I'm gonna go a different route. I'm gonna go that businesses are in business because they solve a particular problem or a set of problems from a particular vantage point. For instance, back in my day, and this business isn't around anymore because culture has changed, there was this company called Toys R Us. Right? Toys R Us was there because it was a depot of toys that parents could leverage to keep their kids entertained. As the source of entertainment started to change, then Toys R Us, having a store for Toys R Us, it wasn't as important as it was in the past. But it solved a problem because it allowed parents to go to one place and look at all the toys they see on television that are being marketed, or all the toys that are current and what are trending right now, so that their kids can feel loved and appreciated, and they can get that euphoric feeling of, I taken care of my kid. And I always found it interesting that they did so much advertising. And then when I got a little older, I was like, oh, these guys are not advertising for the kids. They're advertising for the parents, or they're advertising to they're showing the likeness of kids, but their real target is the parents, because the parents got the money, right? They want to get the kids hype, boom, 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 get them hype, so they go, oh, I want this, and then the parents go, well, where do I go get that? Boom, they go to Toys R Us, because they're in business to solve a problem. That's the problem that they solved, right? They solved that problem. I don't even know if Toys R Us is even around online anymore. Right, but at one point in time, you could not touch Toys R Us when it came down to toys. The name was Toys R Us. I don't even know if they're around anymore. Are they even around?
They're in Macy's now every once in a while.
They're in
Like, you'll
Macy's
see
every
them
once.
in like the kids section. Yeah, so the giraffe
Yep.
still gets printed up every once in a while in the toys area, but
Oh,
not
yeah.
in every Macy's. I've seen it a couple times, but basically they don't need to be a whole store anymore. I mean, I'm sure they're also an e-commerce model. Let's see. Toys R Us.
Yeah, they're around
Oh,
now.
that's
I'm
like my
looking at.
childhood.
They have a big presence online. They got their big site online or whatever. But the point is, they
Right.
solve a problem, right? They're the place they want
Yeah.
they want you to go when you want to see. Well, they used to be a place you
Right.
would go physically where you can go and touch, feel, see these toys. I don't know if
So
they're in
basically,
Macy's
they
now.
sublease off of Macy's. Yep. They're
Okay,
subleasing off of Macy's.
they're subleasing. Okay, so now they're in Macy's. Yeah, so that's the problem they solve. Okay, so they're still around. So that's the problem they solve. And at the end of the day, you're in business to solve a problem. You want to be the reason why people are not engaging with your list anymore is because they don't feel like you're helping them solve any of their problems. And especially in the area or in the zone that they were introduced to you. So, for instance, they introduced to you as if they, and this is where branding I think comes into play. I wish Justin would be on because he could talk about this a little bit. But I think this is where branding kind of cross sections into this. If I keep on going to Ignite You, for instance, and all I ever talk about is video, 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 but then they go, because this kind of happened to me a little bit, right? I had to snatch it back. People thought I was the podcast guy. Well, I'm not the podcast guy, right?
That's true. I was introduced to you as the podcast guy.
Right. No, I'm the funnels guy, right? I'm the email marketing guy. I'm the campaign management technology guy. I'm the AI guy. I'm the workflows and automation guy. But because all the time every time somebody saw me, what they saw, they filled in the message for me. So if I start to send them messages around what my core offering is, which is all the things I just said, and then they be like, well, wait a minute, I thought you was the podcast guy. Now, all of a sudden, all the other information seems like fodder, and it seems like I'm trying to sell them something when I'm really just trying to add value and give them value. But that's why people opt out. You're not giving them Go ahead.
I guess another way to kind of make the brand go a little deeper on value might be like newsletter stuff, current events type of things, right? I think especially in the automation world, it's changing so rapidly that could be kind of like Jessica's, Bamboo talk, where she's talking about all the different tools.
Yeah.
A newsletter that gives the tools to these business owners might be a good way to start them out on the automation track by giving them a bunch of free tools and a newsletter that gives them one free tool and goes in depth. And then that can be even implemented into more content.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. That's
So when
definitely
we're talking about like top of funnel that actually brings them in and keeps them on a news email list, right?
yeah.
That could be one.
Yeah. So I feel like that's an interesting conversation to have, especially when you get to like system 6, right? Because it's a sneaky one because it doesn't really necessarily have it's not very verbose. It's quiet, right? But retention is huge. Retention of any kind, because that's
also need
That's what Justin was talking about earlier in his office hours. Retention and adoption are from a marketer's perspective is the sneaky one, right? I feel like at higher levels of marketing engagement, when businesses get to a certain dollar amount or a certain number of adopters or a certain number of users, then that retention becomes more of a concentration.
So I think the other good thing would be when you're talking about system 2 and segmentation, being able to also industry specify keywords that are able to be put into these emails, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
So
being able
okay.
to
So
say,
talk a.
here's a AI tool that is helping trades
Mhm.
to systematize their business. Here's an AI tool that's helping chiropractors to systematize their business.
Okay.
And let's say if a AI tool only applies to 5 industries, perfect. You send for that week that email. Let's say it doesn't apply to e-commerce. Most things can apply to e-commerce, but whatever's. Let's say it doesn't apply to e-commerce, but it does apply to service-based businesses. Then you can have your segmentation that was done in System 2, right? Of service-based businesses, and you also know exactly their industry. So basically, the grouping that would get the email would be service-based businesses. In the email topic line, it would say, this AI tool is helping input their industry that they filled out in segment in systems 2, right? And then now it's personalized, and then an e-commerce brand that this doesn't help would not get that email, so they're not irritated. The right people are getting it, and then it feels personal because it's industry specific.
Yeah, that's right. So you gave more light to why System 2 can be a major player, because you're able to gather the information that's going to help them stay on the list longer because you're asking the right questions, getting the right input. So that becomes
So I think that's
so there's a
why
level. There's
people
something
don't
else
understand
to
it.
there's something else to be considered here too, right? And that is, how much friction are you introducing when you're getting somebody to opt in for a lead magnet? Because you got to remember
I like that word.
this, right? At this point in time, in real time, at this point in time, they haven't even got the lead magnet at this point in time, right? At this point in time, they just said, I want the lead magnet, and they click the link. Now they go to the form that's going to collect the information they need in upfront, where they give you the information that you're looking to collect, so that then that's the exchange for the lead magnet, right? So how much friction do you need to introduce at this point? And that's another thing, going back to the top of the conversation, that's another consideration for why you should be concerned about the type of information that you're asking for. Or, are you asking for too much too soon?
Another thing that might be good is to be transparent, right? People like transparency and authenticity. So saying we run a segmented AI technology newsletter or automation newsletter, right?
Right.
And then put the definition of segmented, and then put what it really means and how it benefits them. Before we get started in sending you information for your business, we want to get all the right information so we know that what we're sending you is relevant, and so that we don't bombard you with stuff that doesn't apply to you. That little bit of effort, if they know that they're going to get information that's curated, or you can even use that word, curated,
Right.
right? We curate information for our people, right? So they're not
Right.
going to get every email. I think that I would take a little bit of extra time to tell them what industry I'm in, what the size of my business, 2 to 5 people versus like a 30-person business would be a totally different segmentation. Hey, Justin, that I would want to be on, right?
Right. So yeah,
So if I had like,
so you're saying on the landing page. So imagine this is all happening on the landing page, right? This is all happening on the landing page in real time. They hit the landing page. You got them to come out of social media. Now they're on the landing page. Now it's time for them to fill out the information. And you're at the top of that. Say, hey, what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna talk about that. That's one of the Selling 7 videos. So at that point, what they're doing, you're basically giving them the breakdown. Like, we have a curated list, a curated XYZ for XYZ folks, so that we can make sure we're delivering the highest and the best quality content for you to advance
so you
your
could even say
XYZ.
this. You can have 2 different buttons next to each other. One says agency or industry, like marketing, and then one says industry specific. And one gets just like text message, email, name of company,
Right.
boom. And one gets industry specific, boom, 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 boom. It's a longer one that's more curated. And the reason why this would be good is because someone like me might not just want to get stuff that applies to content. I might want to get stuff that applies to every industry. So I would fill out general. But then there's, let's say, Marie, right? Marie just wants GC stuff that can help her GC business. And that's it.
Now you're talking about I feel like there's a little bit of a shift too here. So if your process, if your business is a newsletter, I can see where this would be extremely effective and helpful. However, if your business is not a newsletter, if you're a business to business type of organization, then where does this fall into that category? So, for instance, if I'm selling insurance, right, or if I'm a financial planner, right, then I would automatically assume that your only reason why you're on my page is because of financial planning. So I don't know that they will want to select between marketing and then financial planning. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Okay. So if you're a financial planner, for example, a newsletter that covers some sort of financial news that is going on, a current event in the financial markets, in um, or even a heartwarming story about someone who has made it out of the rat race, might be a parallel piece of content that would help to make your sales pipeline less salesy.
Okay, I get that.
Right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
a newsletter is a lot, if done properly, can be higher conversion than a here's what we do. This is our testimonies. This is that's a me story versus here's some things out in the world that apply to you. And it's not called, for example, traffic link newsletter. It's called like, for example, there's a one that I follow right now. It's called Superhuman AI, right? It's not necessarily affiliated with a business in name, but it's named for that purpose. And if they wanted to affiliate link another AI software that is paid or whatever, they can make money that way. Or they can, I'm not sure what business they're affiliated with, but they can link their own product,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. I kind of follow with you. I kind of follow where you're coming from. I think that the spirit of what you're saying is right on point. My only concern about at this point would be focus. And again, the whole purpose of a funnel is to get somebody from oblivion to a predefined point or predefined end result. That's where so that's what I'm saying about the friction. Are you introducing too much friction and while you're collecting information, right? Because if you they say a confused mind doesn't buy. A confused mind don't convert either. A confused mind doesn't sign up for a list or sign up to do a thing because they all know on the back end, everybody knows on the back end of getting of something for free is going to be you getting marketed to, right? Everybody knows that. However, they'll stick around if the what you're if the way that or the mode and what you're marketing to them is going to add value to them. And I think that's the thing you're saying is this is a way to add value to them. But how much friction can they withstand? And I think that has a lot to do with what you're promoting on the front end. It's like in system one in your traffic, and attraction. What kind of lead magnet are you putting out there? What kind of copy are you putting out there that's going to make them want to stay around for the emails that are come? And I like what you said too about just verbalizing and being transparent and saying, "Hey, this is how this is going to work." That is in the Selling Seven video, a Selling Seven video that explains what's going to happen next after you give me your information. How often do you plan on contacting me, or how often are they going to get contacted? By which means? What is going to be the content of the exchange? Is it going to be value added, educational, buyer guides? What's going to be on the back end of that? So those are the things to consider as well. Because definitely don't want to put somebody in a situation where they're like, God, dog, man, they're always sending me stuff and it's never anything I can use, right? Or feeling like they're getting sold, always getting propositions with an offer.
Yeah. I think there's definitely ways to make the offer a little more subliminal or subtle, especially when you're writing like this has been done in blogs all the time, where they'll write about a problem that a person is facing, and then pop the solution at the bottom, right? And I
Okay.
think that also has context for system two because you can segment that. You can segment the type of problem that a person is facing.
Right. So
Yeah.
so now you really in now now you got me excited all over again. Okay. So you familiar with UTM parameters?
No.
All right. UTM parameters basically are if you look on if you look on some URL, especially where you know that like they're marketing something or they're promoting something, you'll see the .com, then you'll see a slash, and then after the slash it's going to say UTM underscore source or UTM underscore campaign, right? I believe one of them is UTM underscore content, where you can say what content was, where you can say what content was being presented for them to be able to click. Little marketers, the automators' secret is in the form that they land on, you already pre-fill it out with that UTM information, and then with that smart form or the intelligent form, if the UTM source is this and the UTM content is this, then push them to this presentation, right? And if you ever notice, like if you land on a page and it shows you something and it blips, goes white, and then it goes to where it finally does wants to go, chances are those UTM parameters are being processed, and therefore it's determining it at that point where they want to, what presentation they want to present to you, in order for you to go ahead and complete the action of taking advantage of a particular offer. So I get excited about that because there's a lot of control in how you present your offer. That's gonna do what you're talking about, which is really a personalization. Referring back to what we talked about a little earlier, because you want to make sure that your offer is personalized.
So this is actually really good because I'm starting to see that even in niche specific softwares, there's a lot of things to be desired. So in the automation business, I'm seeing that customization is best, right? That's the thing that people should be looking for. That's what creates a high quality product.
Right. One of the flagship, like, overarching things I've always looked at when I evaluate software is how customized can it get and how integrated is it? So does it have the ability to communicate with other pieces of software around the world, around the World Wide Web, around the internet? Does it work natively with other software, or does it work with an integration tool like Zapier or Make, or does it require you to write your own API? I know that's a buzzword, but it's basically API is basically a way to hand off information from one place in the world to another place in the world. That's all the API does. That's its sole purpose. It's just to pass data around and route information from one place to another. So those are very, very very important things to your point of what I look for when I'm looking at software. And that's also one of the hallmarks of somebody that's really a good automator is that they have the ability to and analyze software from that viewpoint so that you can provide a customized solution through the whole funnel, right? That you want to provide personalization and customization through the whole thing. So yeah, the more niched you are, you make it better, you make it easier because there's not so many pivot points that you have to be taken into consideration. You don't have to be concerned. Your message can be straightforward. Like if you're not niche down, then you have to message for each one of those considerations. Does that make sense? I don't know what Justin's doing. I don't even think he knows he's on Discord.
No, I mean, he texted. He asked, are you guys doing a thing? Sounds like he'd be on a tractor.
And his laughter? Hey, how do you kick somebody out the thing?
Wait. So I can mute him on my end.
I muted him.
Okay. Yeah, but I just don't know if it's muting to your OBS system.
No, it's muted.
Okay. Cool.
It's muted all the way around.
Yeah, so that's good.
So anyway, system 2, yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. That's the beginning. That's why I tell people that's where I get really strong, because there's a lot you can do in that area. There's a lot that I can do when you get to system 2, because it's going to dictate. It really has the ability to dictate the success of everything else you do. Right? If you don't message the right way, you significantly decrease the like, know, and trust factors for your business. You significantly reduce your ability to work efficiently and fast. There's a lot that you can do. You don't know on the back end, when you get all the way down to like follow up in the system 6, it's hard to quantify what worked and what didn't work because you didn't capture the right information. And capture the information, like I said just a few minutes ago, isn't always what the potential client gives you, but what you've programmed to capture when the client actually does take action, like UTM parameters or any kind of URL parameters for that matter. I know working with video ask to other people, other softwares, to your CRM, you'll have what's called key value pairs. So there's a key or a keyword that has a value, right? And then that value, they're paired together. And those key value pairs are also considered what's called URL, but basically your web address parameters. Parameters meaning additional things you add to your URL to get a particular response. So you can actually drop that information into the form without the potential client even knowing, or the lead without them even knowing, but it's informing you, your tomorrow self, on key information that you need to be able to make the next best offer relative to how these people are being segmented in your contact list. This is where it gets super brainy, bro. This is where this right here starts to throb a little bit, like, because there's so many considerations that happen right here. So,
hey, Xavier,
I immediately admit that, like, to the average person listening to me right now, this probably sounds like rah, 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 rah. But to the right person, this is like, okay, they're talking about the very thing that I'm having a problem with.
No, if they're feeling that pain point, they'll get it. They'll understand.
They'll get it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now,
But yeah, I gotta go, so I'll talk to you guys later. Um, I'm gonna probably call both of you at some point in time. But yeah, all right.
all right, sounds
See you
good.
guys. Yup, it just said you got here too. Sorry.
Who, Justin?
Yeah. I take care.
All right.
Yep, Justin's finally not blowing our eardrums out.
Oh,
All right, take care, guys.
all right. Take
Bye.
care. Are you talking? Okay, let me unmute you. I almost kicked you out of class. You was being disobedient, man. You was being disruptive. It was horrible.
Who?
You,
When?
when you got on, it was like I heard tractors and people laughing in the background.
Oh, I walked over to the burger stand and get a malt over here at Lucky's. I didn't realize that my mic was still on. That's my fault.
I told you he was being bad and disruptive and disorderly and all that. I
Are
almost
you good? Sorry, man.
had to kick you out.
You find the mute button?
I did.
All right. Well, that's all that matters. As long as you know how to mute me.
Yeah. So, I think
Did anybody show up today?
I think we're at the end of it right now. I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording, and we can continue after I stop recording. But nonetheless, you guys, thank you very much for dropping in. Today's office hours topic was about funnels, questions you have about funnels, and specifically about how you capture and categorize contact information and why that's important, and the methodologies or the mechanics behind it. And if you were really listening towards the end, we talked about some insider marketing automators, hacks and tricks to be able to get the information you need so you can make the next best offer to your segmented list. Once again, this is Xavier. Thank you guys with the traffic link. Thank you guys all that came and dropped in office hours. We're going to be doing office hours every Thursday at 1 p.m. Here pretty soon, we're going to be asking for people to sign in as they join in office hours. Until then, stay blessed by the best and keep your head on. Don't forget, it's all about messaging and testing. I'm out.